Jefferson Airplane was one of the first San Francisco bands to break out nationally from the mid-1960s Bay Area music scene. From 1965 to 1966, the band went under a number of personnel changes as they developed their musical identity. They worked their way up the San Francisco performance venue ladder from the Matrix nightclub to the Avalon, Fillmore, and Winterland auditoriums. Late 1966 saw the group evolve into its most familiar and popular incarnation. Clockwise from the upper left, Jack Cassidy bass, Grace Slick vocals, recorder, and occasional keyboards, Marty Balin vocals, Spencer Dryden drums, Paul Kantner guitar and vocals, Jorma Kaukonen guitar and vocals. This photo was also used on the cover of their February 1967 breakthrough album. Surrealistic Pillow peaked at number 3 on the Billboard album chart and eventually achieves platinum status. This iconic group image was taken by San Francisco photographer Herb Green, who was born in the Inland Empire city of Indio, Riverside County. In early 1966, Englishman John Ravencroft became a DJ on I.E. radio station KMEN. Upon reaching his 2-month anniversary at the station, he shared the following thoughts about his time in the area. In part, he wrote, "The squeal of tires landing. Los Angeles, a whirlwind of twisting, climbing roads and garish signs. Car softly speeding from the scene to a dream. This is the Inland Empire, John. San Bernardino, Riverside, and a string of names spoken, forgotten, now being remembered." In 1967, he decided to return to his homeland, where he assumed the name John Peel. Over the next 30-plus years, he was one of the UK's most influential DJs, first on offshore pirate radio station Radio London, and later on BBC Radio 1. In the early 1990s, he began writing his autobiography, which was published in 2004. He told of visiting the 1966 Los Angeles studio sessions for Jefferson Airplane's Surrealistic Pillow album. Of the encounter, he wrote, "The record company bloke who'd taken me there said, 'This is John Ravencroft from KMEN San Bernardino.' And it was a bit like saying, 'Here's someone from Hospital Radio in Kettering,' you know." So they weren't overwhelmed. In fact, they were very snotty to me, although not as snotty as the Byrds. In December 1966, the first single to be released from Surrealistic Pillow was My Best Friend. However, it failed to crack the Billboard magazine Top Pop 100 chart, stalling at the number 103 position. In March 1967, the first Airplane single to hit Billboard's Top 100 record charts was released. Somebody to Love was a song that singer Grace Slick brought to the band after she joined the group. It peaked at the number 5 position. In the Inland Empire, Somebody to Love also reached the top 5 chart position of surveys compiled by local AM radio stations KFXM and KMEN. In mid-June 1967, Jefferson Airplane made a high-profile appearance at the Monterey International Pop Festival in Northern California. The 3-day series of concerts brought together some of the top music acts of the mid to late 1960s. Noted documentarian D.A. Pennebaker and his crew filmed and released a movie about the Seminole Rock Festival. It was to further spread the word about Jefferson Airplane. The third single released from Surrealistic Pillow was White Rabbit. The tune was also brought to the group by Grace Slick, who composed it. It reached the top 10 position on the Billboard National Top 100 chart. In July, White Rabbit held the number 1 position for 2 weeks in the K-Mendes 10 chart and the top 5 position on the KFXM Radio 59 Fabulous 40. With their increasing popularity in the Inland Empire, it was inevitable that Jefferson Airplane would be booked for a performance at the Swing Auditorium. They were, and the concert was presented by KMEN. This Came Entertainer article included a brief Billboard magazine review of their June appearance at the Monterey Pop Festival by Philip Elwood. He wrote, "The Jefferson Airplane brought down the house. It was because of their creative work within the field of rock. The Airplane were the most finished and consistent group that played during the whole festival." The week of the Airplane concert, there was yet another front-page announcement in the Came Entertainer about their impending appearance at the Swing Auditorium. Inside the publication, this article declared, "The Jefferson Airplane, who critics stated stole the show at the Monterey Pop Festival recently, will be appearing live at the Swing Auditorium for one night only, Monday, July 17th. Perhaps you thought you'd never be this close to stars of this caliber. The very love essence of the San Francisco sound." It also revealed that I.E. Group The Caretakers was the opening act. Tickets were $3 in advance and $3.50 at the door. The station was also giving away concert tickets to their listeners, announcing, "For the past week, the Cayman have been flying their own airplane. Hourly flights with the Cayman as captains of their Trans-Cayman Airlines. Lucky listeners who have predicted correctly the Cayman captain have been winning $3.50 Jefferson Airplane concert tickets." In the late July edition of the Came Entertainer, DJ Robert E. Walker reviewed Jefferson Airplane's July 17, 1967 I.E. concert. He wrote, "Monday night at the Swing Auditorium was the most out-of-sight happening ever to invade the Inland Empire. Out front, it was a fantastic show, and I thought maybe you'd be interested in what went on backstage throughout the show. I went on stage to open the show for Cayman and got a warm response from the 4,000 or more people that filled Swing Auditorium. It was my pleasure to introduce I.E. Band The Caretakers. It is the job of an opening act to turn the crowd on and set them up for the headliners, and The Caretakers did exactly that. It is the usual practice of most big groups to show up about 5 minutes before they're scheduled to go on. But to my amazement, as I walked off stage, I was told that the Airplane had just arrived. I couldn't believe it, a full hour and a half early. So here they came down the long hall of the back of the Swing stage. Threading their way through equipment came the number 1 group in the USA today. Out of all the turmoil that is every backstage scene came the voice of the plane, Miss Grace Slick, cool, calm, and completely collected, wearing a long, floor-length black and white robe. She has to be one of the most charming, pleasant people I have ever seen. She is slender and small, with one of the most captivatingly beautiful smiles you will ever see. For the next hour or so, they walked around backstage, sat and talked, and checked equipment. Then came their time to turn on the Inland Empire. For over an hour, the crowd stood, mesmerized, watching the Airplane take off. Their sound is their own, and they do it well. The sound system, brought in specially from Oakland, was the finest, letting you hear the artists and hear them well. White Rabbit naturally was the focal point of the evening, and Grace in the Airplane sounded better than the record. It was a grabber. Somebody to Love concluded Monday night's happening, and the airplane retired to their dressing room to relax, rest, cool off, and pose for pictures. At this time, I was in conversation with Grace, and it went something like this. Me, what did you think of the crowd? Grace, great, just great. They were really polite and well-mannered, but I felt sorry for the kids up front at the stage that were getting crushed. Me, what would you think about coming back again? Did you really have that good of a time? Grace, how about tomorrow? The kids were so groovy here that I'd come back and do 4 hours tomorrow if we didn't have to fly to Minneapolis to do a show. About this time, bass player Jack Cassidy walked over. Me, how'd you dig the show? Jack, sounded good out front and looked great. Too much. They were actually tossing stuff at us, notes and stuff like that, you know? Are they always like this? Me, not always. They don't see the Jefferson Airplane in person all the time. They really dug it, and you did a great show. Jack and Grace. Thanks, and tell the people we dug them. One final Grace Slick story. Backstage KMEN DJ Robert E. Walker discovered a discarded issue of the Came Entertainer. He reported, Grace got out an orange felt pen and doodled on the airplane's front page picture, drawing freckles and lining faces and highlighting features of the group. I have that particular Came Entertainer now and will give it away to some lucky Jefferson Airplane fan. 2 months later, Jefferson Airplane's fame continued to grow as they headlined Bill Graham's San Francisco Scene concert at the Hollywood Bowl in L.A. Sharing the stage with them were fellow Bay Area bands The Grateful Dead and Big Brother and the Holding Company. In November 1967, I.E. discount department store Whitefront advertised the first 2 Jefferson Airplane stereo albums on sale for the unbelievably low price of only $2.66 each. In 1967, the airplane made its share of network television program appearances. In May, they performed on CBS's Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. In June, they were featured on an episode of Dick Clark's American Bandstand on the ABC network. The airplane closed their 1967 network TV appearances on NBC with a late November performance on Perry Como's Holiday Special. They played alongside comedians Rowan and Martin and fellow musical guest stars Bobby Gentry and Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66. In May 1968, Jefferson Airplane played 5 California concerts in San Francisco, Sacramento, Santa Clara, Los Angeles, and closed the month at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino. The May 25, 1968 concert was Jefferson Airplane's second appearance at the Swing Auditorium. This San Bernardino Sun newspaper article revealed that in addition to its appearance in the IE, the airplane was preparing to tour Europe for the first time later in the year. The flyer on the left advertised that Jefferson Airplane was headlining the show with up-and-coming LA band Iron Butterfly and East Coast band The Boston Tea Party opening. Advance tickets could be purchased at the Harris department stores in San Bernardino and Riverside, Gillette's Record Store in Riverside, or Lyle's Record City in San Bernardino. Jefferson Airplane's May 1968 show at the Swing Auditorium was presented by IE radio station KFXM. Station DJ Dick Lyons was selected to MC the evening. The cover of the May 31st issue of the Tiger Mag declared, "Airplane Socko at Swing." Although not mentioned on the flyer or tickets, the caption stated that IE power trio The Drift had opened the show and that the show was attended by 6,700 fans. Inside the May 31st publication, the Edgar Says gossip column reported Grace Slick of the Jefferson Airplane planted a gigantic kiss on Dick Lyons in front of a capacity crowd last Saturday night at Swing Auditorium. Dick says he has finally found somebody to love. Again. In a 2021 interview with the I Remember Radio YouTube series, Lyons spoke of the incident. He said, "My favorite story, though, is Grace Slick from the Jefferson Airplane. I emceed that show, and I talked to her before the show. I said, 'What's your first song?' And she said, 'Somebody to Love.' And I said, 'I have an idea. Do you mind if I share?' She said, 'No. Go ahead.' I said, 'When I introduce you, come out and kiss me, or I'll kiss you, and then do Somebody to Love.' And she looked at me like, 'What? No, that's too corny. The audience will know. That'll never work.' So I said, 'Okay.' I thought I'd come up with an idea. Right after I introduced her, she comes out, grabs me, and lays a big kiss on me. Of course, I was surprised, and I think that's what she wanted. The crowd went nuts, and she goes right into their biggest hit. That was a big deal for me." The second-billed Iron Butterfly earned their own front cover photo layout in the June 7th issue of the KFXM Tiger Mag. At this point, they had released their first album, but had yet to release their biggest hit, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. The June 28, 1968 issue of Life magazine featured a cover photo of Jefferson Airplane. The publication had a special section on the new rock, music that's hooked the whole vibrating world. In the main article, the rather flowery text read, "The Jefferson Airplane flies the runways of the mind and the airways of the imagination. It arrives and departs at will, exploring surrealist landscapes. The Jefferson Airplane is a jet soaring through the clouds and penetrating the dark, leaving behind the blur of city. It reaches a timeless speed, 3/5 of a mile in 10 seconds. A strato cinema begins in mini Panavision." On April 26, 1969, Jefferson Airplane made its third and final appearance at the Swing Auditorium. Also appearing that night were Three Dog Night and perennial swing performer Lee Michaels. Opening the evening was another San Francisco band, It's a Beautiful Day. A battered ticket from the evening reveals that San Francisco's Glenn McKay's headlights were providing liquid projection atmospheric lighting behind the performers. Tickets were $4 in advance and $4.50 at the door. An audience recording of Jefferson Airplane's April 26, 1969 Swing Auditorium concert exists. This set list was compiled from that tape. In 1996, Jefferson Airplane was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The band is one of some 60 members of the Hall of Fame that performed at the Swing Auditorium in San Bernardino.